we're live now. All right. What's up, Leo?
Doing pretty good. Finished teaching my morning classes for the day. Lots of hip openings.
Okay.
Lots of pose. Splits.
So how many classes a day do you teach now?
A day? I try to keep it a minimum of 3 a day, but I'm shifting that around December. I want to start stacking a little differently because I offer an intuitive counseling that I do throughout the day.
Okay.
It's very much still like private energy and movement work, but other information comes through. So with that, I'm just stacking my day a little differently.
Okay.
So yeah.
So do you look at? So I should pause real quick because we're going to put up on our podcast too. So there's some people that can't won't see us right now.
Okay.
But so I'm talking with Leo Rising. He's a yoga instructor in New York City. And I met Leo at the Namaste Festival in Philadelphia. I guess the first time was in the spring event of last year. And then we saw each other again this fall. So Leo's going to talk with me about yoga and the business of yoga and being an instructor in the business of yoga. So yeah. So for those of you who are listening to the podcast, we're on a live Google Hangout right now, and I was telling Leo that we can. So basically, I can record the Google Hangout, which will then automatically send the video to our YouTube channel, and then I can download that video and I can splice out just the audio and use that for our podcast.
That's so techy. You have to teach me. I love it, but I jumped off the tech bandwagon in 2004.
Well, let me tell you, based on your Instagram feed and your Facebook feed, I don't think you jumped off the tech bandwagon at all. I think you just have gotten on someone else's bandwagon instead of building your own bandwagon.
Whoa, mind blown. But I must say,
I'm glad you said that because here's the thing, like, so tell me, okay, so let's before we get into the tech side of things. So you're saying that you do about 3 classes a day. So 15 a week, is that like roughly what you try to stick to?
The real number is 12.
Okay. So help me understand something, because I've had this conversation with people a lot, and I am totally aware that it comes from a place of my ignorance of what it's like to do the job of being a yoga instructor, right? Okay. So, but I often will hear people say, like, I can't teach more than 3 classes a day, right? And so in a non-judgmental way, what I do in my mind is I think to myself, well, okay, so even if every class is a 90-minute class, that's like 4 or 3.5 hours, 4.5 hours of work. I know there's like travel time, but like what's the deal with this 3 classes a day thing that I keep hearing?
Amateurs.
You said it too, right? Like you said it too.
No, I mean, I think as a teacher, and I say amateurs for a reason because I'm calling us all out. I'm going to call a lot of people out. I'm not sure if I'm in that group because I have my group classes, I have my corporate classes, and I have my private, and there are days where I do 6.
Got it.
I feel my fullest when I can do 6. The average American work schedule is about 5 to 9 hours to 11 hours. I mean, average now is probably like 14. Everyone's an entrepreneur at a startup, so everyone's not leaving until they feel like they paid for their lunch today.
Right.
But and tomorrow. But 3, you're gonna bring in about like $150, $175, $200 if the places you're at care about you. If you're teaching private, your hour session is gonna feel like a 2-hour session, and you should be bringing in like $500 if you've done three privates in a day.
Okay, right.
If not, you need to email me, and we'll talk about that. But the thing is like 3 is a nice minimum. If 3 is the minimum, there's an oversaturation of yoga teachers. But there's a lot of want for the exploration of movement. So then you come into the bigger conversation of what kind of movement? Is it smart yoga? Is it smart movement? Are people actually learning something? And so minimum of 3 allows a person, and the average, I mean, I don't even know what the word is, but I would say for one senior teacher who has over 10 to 20 years of teaching, there's 10 new people that are in that 3 class a day experience.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working at gyms and they're working at studios, and I know a bunch of them. I was one of them. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of, it's 3 hours. They're probably split. They're probably not back to back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like a morning, a noon, and an evening. And then.
So is it more, I guess the question is it true then that it's more of like a logistical problem simply because of the structure of how you have different studios in different locations? Or is it like the physical act of teaching is like, you know, you get diminishing returns after 3 classes, which I would totally understand, you know? I'm just trying to understand like the constraints under which it's reasonable to like presume that somebody can operate. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sorry, if you feel like you can't operate after teaching 3 classes in a day, then you should probably still be, 2 of those classes should be your sadhana. They should be your personal practice. Or you should be studying with someone. There's just an oversaturation of people out there teaching these, or guiding, really guiding. The teacher is gonna have more, if they teach 1 class, if they're coming with a massive following.
okay.
And that means that throughout the rest of their day, their 1 group class is price bracketed anywhere from $150 to $200 for them to show up, no matter who comes. And then they have a crap ton of privates they've either already saw or they're seeing later.
So so for a private, you're saying that you think it, I mean, you're in New York City, so I know that your guys, you know, it's going to be a little bit different there than it might be in, you know, Kansas City or something like that. So, but you said, so you're like the roughly $150 for a private lesson is what you believe in New York City anyway is like the market for private. Is that, am I hearing you correctly?
I think that's what it should be, but you should also be at a place where you're what that person's paying for, you can really give them.
Yeah.
But the 3 class minimum, man, oh man. It's such a big conversation because like the studios.
I know. I'm like fascinated by it because, you know, like I'm friends with yoga instructors and my wife owns a yoga studio and our customers are owners of yoga studios. And there's this like, you know, there's this real thing. So let's talk about this. So the group class minimum, and you mentioned something about like, so in your mind, like when you go teach a class,
mm-hmm.
like what is, you know, what's for you for a 1-hour class? Like what's like where you make X amount of dollars and you're like, hey, that's good. I'm happy with that.
I'm just going to use the word base pay.
Okay.
So I show up for base pay and I'm pretty adamant about where I believe I fit at base pay.
Okay.
If that can't be matched, then I probably don't show up at that particular place.
And what is that number for you?
Nuh-uh.
Tell me? But no. Podcast about, because here's why I asked this question. So the thing that I'm trying to explore lately
mm-hmm.
is what I think is the case right now is that the math. So I have we have good insights into the operations of a yoga studio due to the nature of our business, right? And my fear is that the dollar amount that yoga instructors want to make for their group classes at a base level mm-hmm. might literally be a number that the average studio can't sustain. So just to throw out a,
mm-hmm.
an example of a number, right? So let's say you said, I want to have a base pay of $100 for every group class, which probably isn't the case, but I'm just going to let's pretend that it is, right?
You see this?
I don't know. Oh, maybe it is. All right. So, and then we'll get into more. This is good. I'm glad so my wife's studio has about 145 classes a month, right? So if she agreed to do a base pay of $100 per class at her studio, her base pay would be $14,500, and she'd go out of business over enough time. Like, the reality of the numbers of her business are such that in the busy season, she's able to support an average base pay or an average pay of a little bit over $50. And in the slow season, it's a little bit over $40. And she wants that to increase as the studio grows. Mm-hmm. So I guess this is like a thing that I want to explore, because I am worried that the industry has a situation where it's like either the studio owners or the instructors are going to be pissed off about something all the time.
The instructors are usually going to be pissed off when it comes to pay, because most people that graduate rush into trying to teach yoga full time. And I think that's a mistake.
Ah, okay.
I think it's a mistake unless you have in your bag of graces and talents and tricks the divine blessing from the universe, meaning you either have a savings, you have other movement trainings, you have people asking you every day what your rate is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many variables into what make, like, I'm someone who, and I think I can say this because I really didn't want to teach full time, but that wasn't an option for me to say no. I kept getting jobs.
Okay.
So I did the smartest thing I could, is I stuck at one place, studied harder, and accepted the jobs with the higher pay rate. But stayed there and trained, got better. And now I feel like that for my psyche, my ego communicating to my highest self, that I've earned my position to be a little picky for myself, because I have a better understanding of what I offer. Right. Now, there are people that leave teacher trainings with no movement history that then rush out. Studios take them because they need a time slot filled. And then that's where base pay and per head pay, and then everything gets really funky, because then you have, I know people that had like 10 years or more of movement training and like medicinal care, occupational therapy, and they can't get a teaching job because the spunky young person is working for $12 and then $2 per head if somebody comes past the number of like 3, you know? So it's like the chicken or the egg with the business of yoga paying your.
This is something I was talking with Miley about, like that I think is really a challenge with instructor pay. So, like, here's one thing that's weird about it, just from just like looking at it from raw business standpoint, right? So some instructors have like a more formal and specialized training in some things. Mm-hmm. So like, one of our developers is married to a woman who's a yoga instructor, and she's also a doula, for example. So she is like really, knows a lot more about teaching a prenatal class than someone pregnant. What's that?
I wish I was pregnant. That's a great.
But like, so here's the thing that's weird about instructor pay is that, in order for her to like be able to teach a good prenatal class, right? And I've never been in her prenatal class because, like you, I've never been pregnant. But I hear it's very good, right? But the thing is, there's gonna probably only be ever 8 to 12 people in that class, right? And on the converse side, Miley has an Asana class that's at 6:30 on Tuesdays, and she knows that it's like it will fluctuate a bit sometimes depending on who's teaching, but then there is a certain baseline number of people that she's going to bring in the door because of the time of the class. But the people who teach that class make more money because there's more people in the class, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you, in theory, don't like. I guess what I'm getting at is that in theory, there's a greater supply of teachers that can teach an Asana class than teachers who can teach a prenatal class, right? There's more people who are yoga instructors that are not doulas than yoga instructors who are doulas.
Well, like,
right?
Okay, so doulas are still holistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if someone that's a yoga instructor that's a doctor and has the doula knowledge, but they went to med school because that's what, their path told them to do, and
right. I think if that person,
they're not teaching for that individual, depending on where they're at in their life, might not teach for the hustle of hustle and flow of cash.
right?
So that's where, like, the asana class is introductory to movement, parasympathetic attention, sensitivity. The prenatal class is specialty. Your wife can totally borrow this format because I worked at a place where prenatal actually, it didn't, if like 50 people came into an asana class, fine. Of course it's going to beat prenatal, but prenatal is a specialty and it takes a different attention. And
right.
Kind of, if you're not there, I'm one of my closest friends, I can say her name because she'll love that, Heidi, hated her prenatal class, liked her teacher, but that just wasn't her jam. Heidi, her jam is like, her jam would have been prenatal CrossFit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
She just was not into
Right. But I guess I'm trying to get more into like I think one of the challenges is that if you are someone who owns a yoga instructor, it can be true that you're able to equally satisfy your customers with someone who has 1 year of experience and someone who has 10 years of experience. What's that?
I mean, the yoga instructor can appease the practitioner.
Now, what I'm saying is if you are the owner of a yoga studio,
oh, okay,
right? I think that there are times when you can provide about the same level of satisfaction to your customers with someone who has 1 year of experience teaching yoga,
mm-hmm.
as you can with someone who has 10 years of experience teaching yoga.
Absolutely.
Now, that is not to say that the person who's teaching 10 years of yoga won't be able to bring something to the table that the person with 1 year would not be able to bring, right? Everybody can bring their own unique thing to everything that they do, right? Mm-hmm. But like I hear this is another thing I hear a lot in the industry. There's all these new young people coming and, they're eager to take the jobs and whatever. And I understand that that's true. I also understand that makes yoga no different than every other industry in the universe.
So after you've put that into the space, so it took us about like almost 9 to 14 minutes to just say that, right? So I was tiptoeing. I was being kind of nice about it. In the business of, God, is it the business of yoga or is it the business of selling an experience? Like it's an experience, right?
Yeah.
So yoga is a state that you really don't have to sell. There's that argument, but we're not going to have that one. But with new people versus old people, like I was an early person who got great opportunities put before them, and I feel honored for that. And I know that I pulled from my old world, my old business trainings, my old movement training, everything to honor the fact that these things were happening for me. But then when I really took my cap off and had to have certain business conversations, I stopped accepting lower rates. And I had to then build a case to accept a rate that I'm like, I live in the East Village in Manhattan. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't live somewhere else. I live in Manhattan. It's a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah.
And
right.
we were met. So the teachers that feel threatened by the new bodies have to know that the new bodies don't have the common awareness or the one-pointed focus to take your job. That's not what they're thinking.
Right.
That's because they're going in so innocently about like, I'm just gonna teach yoga at this weird time and someone might show up. The studio is able to give them a try because the studio is just trying to drag traffic in to support the senior teacher. Most studios are set up with, like I've known it because like I've worked at studios that've done it. You set it up so that the people that have the most experience and have the most knowledge have the stronger time slots. You give the newer people time slots.
That's kind of how my wife does it.
But it's still, ultimately the issue with pay anywhere, just like anywhere in the world, is oversaturation, is who's the demographic, who are you selling to, who do they want to see? Like when you put that studio's numbers out, it was very clear. It's like, okay, so in my base rate scale, if I lived in Chicago and this is someplace I wanted to work, I know what I would be okay with and I know what I would work towards. And if I love the community, I never have to reach my final goal because there's so many other things that come into play. But that means when I'm not at your studio, I have to hustle everywhere else.
Right. You know? Yeah.
That's up to the independent contractor. The hustle. But
right.
The pay issue, honestly, Andrew, I really feel like it's just like oversaturation of people and places. But it's a good thing because I feel like it's only an oversaturation because we all have to pay rent on something. Elsewise, variety is awesome because I don't vibe with everyone and everywhere. So I want to be somewhere where, you know.
Right.
So
Let me ask you this. So it's clear you kind of, and I totally respect, like you don't want to get into like specific numbers and that kind of thing, which I.
My number, or you just mean numbers in general?
Well, I mean, I'll get into as many details as people are willing to get into, but I want to give you a proper amount of space, right? But so let me ask you this. You are an instructor, and so you have a good perspective on what you want to make in the industry and what kind of rate that you think would be reasonable, right? So let me ask you just, if you had decided, hey, I'm going to open my own studio, because I think I know this business. I have a vision for a place that I haven't seen exist. I'm gonna build it and I want to attract good teachers and that kind of thing. In your mind, just in general, if you were to do that, is there like a target per class pay that you'd hope to be able to achieve for your instructors? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if so, what would that number be?
I think all instructors on my team would start anywhere from $55 to $75 base rate, no matter who's in. And I know that sounds crazy cakes, but it's just a matter of I've seen too many people personally broken because just their money was played with. And it's like a lot of instructors put a lot of effort and time into where they train, and they continue their training there. So they're losing money. Any class that they have, they're putting back into the place. So they end up being trapped to make more money and then almost sign a spiritual non-compete agreement. So it's like, I'm not going to tell you like I can't afford this next training, but I'm just going to suffer so I can do this next training.
Right.
And then I do the training in hopes that you'll notice me and you'll give me a raise, and the raise doesn't come.
So and here's where, and the reason that I'm, these are things where it's not that I have even judgments on them. They're constraints that are very real constraints in the industry that I feel like there's certain places where the numbers don't like match, right? And when the numbers don't work, like the numbers don't work. And if the numbers don't work for one side, they don't work. And my thing is like, when I hear you say that, I think that's like, I agree with you. I mean, Miley has like a mental goal where she wants to average $50 per class for her instructors. And she's in Chicago, and she's not quite there yet, but she regularly reaches it during the busy time, right? And she's like a little busier every year. Things take time to build. Also, I just, because of the way that I am, right, I do math like instantly. And so the only thing that I like, when I hear like you say those numbers, I'm like, awesome, that totally makes sense to me. So I go 75 times 45 classes a week times 4 weeks a month is you're going to end up with a payroll of about $15,000, right? Mm-hmm. So healthy studio business payroll should make up roughly 35% of their revenue. So I see this and I'm like, okay, so business that wants to have a payroll of $15,000, they should have about $40,000 in revenue, right, per month. So then I said, okay, $40,000 a month in revenue divided by, let's say you want to have an average like per class attendance cost of, I'm just going to throw out $15 because New York City, and you're at $2,666, right? And so it's like there's very real places where I just don't know how the math works for everybody. Like, I don't think that as the owner of a studio, like, I mean, so let's, you know, when you do the numbers, I just don't know how it works. Like, what I would tell you if you were a customer calling me is I would say, Leo, honestly, like, I'm afraid that you might go out of business if you go with that pay structure.
Yeah. So then I think the flaw with most yoga studios comes at their class rate price.
Okay.
Yoga consumers are trained for it to be cheap.
I know. I totally agree with. I know.
Because they're trained for it to be cheap, and it's this rocket experience, it then feeds into the oversaturation and accessibility because, like, eventually the conscious level of the human being goes, well, I just paid $5 for a mat rental and that teacher, and he wasn't that good. But I went $20 over here to, like, Buddha Smiles Yoga, and she was all right, but her mat sucked. So then I brought my own mat, and I started practicing online. I only spend like $30 a month to practice online. But I found out that this lady trained over here. So I'm going to do that training, and I'm going to go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my trust fund. I'm going to open a yoga studio. There's that. Or I'm gonna go use my college refund money or the scholarship like over exchange, and I'm gonna advance, and then they become yoga teachers, and their stream of energy changes, so they're no longer a consumer. They're now looking for jobs. So they're not paying any of these studios because they're looking to compete with the studios, but they don't think that they're competing with the studio. No one wants to be a student. Everybody wants to lead someone. No one wants to learn anything. So that's why the price bracket.
Right. Well, I think what you're saying is true, but I mean, and I think I said $2,666. I meant attendances, by the way, when I was doing that math.
I heard it as attendance. You didn't confuse me.
Okay. But so, and here's the thing though, right? Like, so then it's like, and that's not undue. That's not doable. I think my wife's studio will do it'll push 2,000 attendances. For sure. So like a month, so, but the thing is that the difference between like 2,000 and 2,600 is like it's a big difference. You know what I mean? And, I just like going with so just taking that math one step further to its logical conclusion is you get, 2,666 attendances divided by, I think we said 160 classes a month, right? And you're looking at 15-ish attendances at an average price per attendance of $15, right? In order to make the numbers that you're talking about work. So it's not that it can't be done, right? But it's that I don't think people appreciate that to get to that level that you're talking about, you're not going to open your doors most likely at that level. It's going to take years, like in the same way that an instructor, it takes years to build up your private practice following. For an individual studio, it's going to take time. You know, there's not 15 people paying $15 for the 6:30 a.m. class on Monday morning. there's just not, you know. And so what that means is
like it's because there's so many options for like where they can take that 6:30 class if they wanted to even take class at that time.
right.
So I think if we try to go into it's, I don't even want to say that because I don't think that's fair, because I know so many super successful yoga teachers, but the route that they took is innovative and it's unique to them. And so those are the people that I follow now. Those are the people that I'm learning from, and those are the people that speak to me regularly.
Yeah.
But the studio is like, you have to know why you want. I think like Laughing Lotus in New York City, the thing that they do right is that it's not a yoga studio, it's a yoga center.
Okay.
And it ebbs and flows how much of a center and how much of a rolling class experience it is. That's like a real thing. Like you can look on October and be like, oh wow, there's 31 events in 31 days. And you look at November, you'll be like, there's 2 events, but there's 4 new classes. December, those 4 classes are gone, but there's more events. So it's like
okay.
Yoga studios shouldn't feel like they have to be at a place where they have to adjust that every month or bi-monthly.
Yeah.
It's like state what you are, be what you are, and then open your revenue broadens, because maybe you're not limiting yoga to just asana on a mat. And that's like, you know what I mean? Like the strongest piece of that community center is its holistic health program. That the person who runs that is phenomenal. She contributes adjunctly to, I think, Columbia University has like a metaphysics and holism like department, and she contributes Ayurveda teachings to that. So it's like if you want your studio life to succeed, you have to realize that you have to build a community, and it's not so much your community can't be limited to Warrior 1 and Warrior 2.
Yeah, you know, the thing I've been just like totally kind of almost obsessing about lately is the I feel like where I see the most opportunity for both instructors and studios is, I mean, this is kind of along the lines of what you're saying with like the more like a centered approach.
Mm-hmm.
It surprises me how like the private lessons and the benefit of a private lesson,
yeah,
I think are like widely not known, right? Like,
yoga, everybody wants the $5 $2 class, $3 mat rental, free water bottle and towel. Oh, I learned to put my foot right today. She don't remember tomorrow, but she'll come back.
Right, but I think that I know. So I think that there's twofold. I think that the group classes and what has happened with the advent of Groupon and ClassPass and everybody trying to like, you know, sort of the race to the bottom and all that kind of stuff. I think it's terrible. It's been terrible for the industry, right? Like, you know, yoga studio can't support itself on an average of attendance of a couple of dollars. It shouldn't even, you know, whatever. Like, also, I don't know if you have your cost structure such that in order for it to work, that students have to pay $25 for a drop-in. Like, I think that starts pushing things a little bit. Although, I mean, I will say, like, are you familiar with a company called SoulCycle?
Yeah.
I'm like fascinated by them because they charge, I think, in the 30s, and they've made a unique experience, and people are willing to pay $30 for a unique experience for an hour. You know,
come to New York. That's common because of the rent here.
Yeah. Okay.
The consciousness on it in New York is that I accept that, but also, and I will never understand this, but I think it's a part of the human makeup. And I'm looking up because I think this idea is coming into me right now in this second. The main issue with yoga studios versus Soul Cycles, boot camp spots is this: people are trained specifically in this world, in this country, in the way that this country has affected other countries, for abuse, for aggression, for your adrenal glands to get fired up. But you think your relaxation, because it's an emptying out, should be free.
Okay.
Because you're conditioned based off your parents or grandparents and going back to not even know how to access that freedom. And we live in a consuming world that will consume you. So you got to pay for it, which comes to the benefits of privates. I think that's what I call my privates presence healing, because it's about being in the present moment and being able to share your presence out in the world.
Okay.
And so that's something I had to come to terms with, because of the feedback I was getting when I was teaching group classes consistently was basically things that I was writing in my journal of either how I wish people would receive me or what I was working to work on that day. So coming back to this, it's like SoulCycle can be $34 for that stationary bike. That hope to God the person gives you spinal traction and tells you how to actually sit on it, right? that class is intense. Cycling's intense. But it's a matter of a person will pay for that abuse, but they don't feel like they should pay for their healing. And so they don't.
Right. And well, there's something too, like, so I mean, I didn't understand the benefit of privates until I started taking privates, right? And it is like, so this is like what I think would be the healthiest thing for the individual practitioners,
yeah,
and for the studios and for the instructors, is to, instead of looking at like how to drive the cost down for the group classes and drive the cost down for the instructors and drive the cost down for the consumer, is to instead explain to everybody the value that everybody's bringing to the equation, right? And then, because my thing is like, if I think more studios should offer more privates, because I feel like that would be a little extra revenue for them, and it would be a lot of extra revenue for the instructors, right? So what do you think about this? Like, are all of your privates through you, and do any of them come from the studio? And
I borrowed my my privates come from God. I tend to not know them, and they appear. Or they're recently my privates are people that had taken my class, and I transitioned to a bigger company, so they don't have the opportunity to see me there.
Yeah,
so
okay.
They came for me,
yeah.
And I was more than welcome. I'm very thankful, because those are my people, and I'm a part of their people. So of course we can share presence in that way.
Yeah.
But I'm adapting my private modality the way that Pure Yoga in New York. So Pure Yoga is it was originally an Asian concept of gym format, but yoga classes. But it's all mind body centric, mind body spirit centric. It's yoga,
okay. But
you have it the way that you would take classes in a gym, like they're rolled throughout the day.
Okay.
There's only 2 in Manhattan. The rest are in Asia. The 2 in Manhattan, when you get your membership, because I was a sales advisor many years ago, when you get your membership, you get a complimentary private so that you can actually know what you're doing, and so that you can join in on the community. So you get that. And that was
my God, I love that idea.
I have no idea how many times I've offered that to other studios. He said, hey, they're like, well, what did they do that work that you really liked and believed in? I said, I like that the members got a complimentary private. Oh, we don't have space or time for that. I'm like, well, you should send the teacher to the house. Like, I don't know.
I totally agree. That's like I think that's a really good idea.
Especially if your sequencing is like something that's stylized, or that has a niche to it, that has some fire, extra taste to it, and a person comes in and they can't figure it out, that person goes to Yelp and attacks something that you spent decades creating, because not many people are that quick.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's a matter of like.
Well, the thing I like about that is I just think it's something where people they don't they haven't experienced it, and so because they haven't experienced it, they don't know. Like, I really was like, why would I get a private yoga lesson when I can do the same thing in a group class? And my actual, like, I don't believe that now, but that was like the opinion I had, right? And that was like the way that my mind thought about it. And then furthermore, the way I thought about it was like, I mean, I kid around, I joke about it when I talk about this. Like, my mind, well, if I'm gonna pay $125 for an hour or something, I wanna be like naked on the table with somebody rubbing oil on me and giving me a full body massage, right? And then I could be like totally passive and they're just taking care of me. But like yoga class, I still gotta work and move and whatever. But what I learned is that by having someone like that, by doing yoga poses with a lot of hands-on adjustments, that like my actual body felt better after a private yoga lesson than it did after a massage, right? I still enjoy massage, but it's like not the same, right? And it is valuable in its own right. And I think the industry does a very, 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 very poor job of explaining that there is value in a private yoga lesson, because people naturally don't question the price of a massage. They don't. Right? Like, that's just, you're on vacation in a nice hotel, $220 for a massage. Okay. Right? Free yoga class in the lobby though. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's just like, I feel like the privates, and using studios as a way to get more privates, and looking at studios as a way to introduce and foster the direct connections between students and instructors, I feel like it's just something I've been thinking a lot about lately.
Well, I mean, you're innovative, and you're doing, it feels like you're doing math on connection, empathy, and kindness. So it's like, if I'm not kind to myself, I'll pay someone else to knead into my back and to find the things that I don't want to spend time looking for. If I'm kind to myself, I'll ask for help. And when I ask for help, could it be the same price as somebody just, poking and telling me where it's at? And that's not what massage therapists do. They're wonderful. And sometimes we don't have the extra energy to do that. We need to learn to surrender and relax. But the process of yoga is about finding that by yourself. The best private yoga teacher or instructor or guide is going to witness you find it by yourself, as if they're your eye, like, what is this thing called? Webcam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in that, it's like those moments of validations, or those quiet moments of like you're twisting and like something really like retracts in your shoulder and you're able to move your chest farther forward towards your knee and you're able to breathe fuller and the whole left lat opens. It's like, there are moments like that in group classes, but when you have that one-on-one and somebody is keenly like Jiminy cricketing you the whole step of the way, you carry that kind of listening with you out of that private and you take it out into the world in a very different way. And that people need to build that awareness. So someone like you earned the appreciation. Like, you worked for the appreciation of understanding privates. Most people don't. But they're okay. Like, I love Hotline Bling.
But I guess so, and I think you're right. But I would argue that, like, as the customer in this relationship, I shouldn't have to discover it by myself. The people who are experts and are selling the service, they need to get better at helping people understand the value.
Helping 30 people at one time understand the value?
No. Helping, I mean, so, okay, let me ask you this. How many instructors do you know where at the end of every class they say, I also do privates. If you think that you would benefit from that, let me know.
Why are you trying to make me spill all the New York, like, secrets?
No, I'm just saying, like, so I guess I'm just saying, like, I agree with what you're saying, but I think that that's a very large burden to put on somebody who maybe their practice right now is they come to a group class every other week, because that's what their schedule allows. And the reason they don't know about the benefit of a private, you could say as well, it's because they haven't done the exploration or whatever. But it could also be because the industry that they're going to isn't doing a good job of explaining that value to them, right?
It depends on where you're at. So the place I'm at now, encourages me to say things like that. Like
Okay.
if I have an offering and that's just solely mine, I can offer it.
Okay. I mean, I'm not like.
To keep it real, I'm going to keep it real. It really depends on what contract you sign, where you're at, and what your permission to say is.
Well, let me even get more generic though. I just mean, do you think that just your perception of the yoga like industry, right? Do you think it does a good job of helping potential customers understand how private is valuable and how it might help them?
I think they've left it up to the teacher. The industry itself doesn't.
Okay.
It's all up to the teacher or the instructor, however they want to be identified, but the industry itself doesn't. The industry is about cash cows and real estate.
Oh no, that's like what you think of when you think of the industry? Really?
When it comes to classes, it's I would say about 60% of it, I would say 10% of it has moved over. I wasn't around long enough to know if it's a 50-50, but I really feel like it's, can we have 19 classes in the day? And then it's like, initially it's like, oh, to accommodate the people that have weird hour schedules. But it's also like, can I get another $400 today so I can buy 400 more coffees? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then real estate is like, no matter what I'm grossing for the year, does my rent kill my dream of wanting to have this yoga studio?
All right. I can't decide if I'm like happy or depressed after talking to you right now. It's
the business, because you know what it is. We could be if we were talking retail like franchises, like if we were talking about H&M and how H&M has to survive now by jazzing it up in such a way where designers that I've never fucking heard of are. H&M was a place that you could go and be able to, and you still can. You can, like, this is a Lululemon top, but H&M, like, you could spend $500 at H&M and walk out with an entire seasonal closet at one point. Now you can't do that. And how H&M survives is they have these guest designers come in that most people never heard of. So it's a treat because you're like, I would never be able to wear this name I can't pronounce.
Okay.
But these are the same people that don't have the budget for that. So instead of getting an entire closet, they're getting this one weird Michael Jackson looking ass jacket from 1980 something, and they're happy about it. But then next year they look at it and they go, why did I spend $400 at H&M for this jacket when their coats are warm, pretty well catered to, like they're pretty well manufactured. They're $6. But this year they got your ass for $400. So it's like, it's depressing to put yoga, something that's freeing and healing and loving, and that's supposed to bring you closer to the sense of source, into that family of business. But that's where it's at.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's okay with me. I think that's like, I actually find, that like understanding that things are business, and so like I think that business really can foster empathy. Like I think it can, because if you look at it from a standpoint of like understanding how you can provide value for people, right? You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes to see what do they want, right?
Yeah.
So like I don't think it's bad to talk about business.
Who said that?
What's that?
Who said it was bad to talk about business?
I guess I felt like I was interpreting the statement that it bothers us that we have to talk about yoga and that it's a freeing thing and that kind of stuff in the same context as H&M, that's like a downer,
I feel like that's a threat of conditioning. I think people don't want to accept the fact that it's wellness is a business, and it's because our breakdown has been a business for longer.
Yeah.
And I'm talking as like a whole people. So it's like people will only value. My mom, for instance, my mom buys Pepsi every day.
Okay.
Pepsi and cigarettes.
That drives you a little crazy, huh?
No, but it's like I beg my mom to take a yoga class. I can't afford that. It's the price of your newly $19 pack of cigarettes and your $4 Pepsi bottle, woman. So human beings spend a really long time devaluing healthiness and
Yeah.
I'm saying God, love, caring about each other. So business, I think all businesses now are trying to find empathy for the people that they're selling to, because we don't want to destroy each other anymore. But it's frustrating for the person on the yoga path, or because I mean, for yoga to survive when it was met by we're going history, right? So for yoga to survive when it was met, it was outlawed first. For yoga to survive, it had to adapt to the principles of the people that came and took over where yoga traditionally was. So yoga had to adapt to that.
Okay.
And those people thrived on currency. So then yoga was exchanged, because it's like, oh, you can't value this universal intelligence if it doesn't have a price for you. Okay, so now it's up to the yoga teacher as an aspect of the universe to declare their price.
Well, what I say is you can value the universal intelligence for free, but if you want to do it in like a nice physical location with a good hardwood floor and a decent HVAC system that's going to kick out heat, then that's the thing that requires money.
That's the thing that requires money. And
you
so
can sit in your living room and watch YouTube videos about yoga all by yourself for free.
Real estate,
right?
And class cow. So it's like cattle call, get them out, get them in, get them out, get it. That's what I mean. So you're paying for the experience. You're not paying for yoga. I experience yoga walking to the class, and then I get to the class, and sometimes I'm teaching just somatics. I'm teaching you connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like my level of yoga is different than the yoga that, I mean, it's not different. What I do is what I do, but it's a matter of who I pay to take class with is very different.
Yeah. I'm finding my taste is changing. I'm finding my taste is changing for sure. Not that I'm, I don't know, like it's just, like a depth. There's like, I want to go deeper with certain things,
Well, I think they say every 6 months that we're shedding and we're like a brand new person. So that makes sense.
Huh.
You should. I don't. And I think collective consciousness of human beings.
I hope you still recognize me when I see you at the next Namaste festival, since that will be 6 months.
I mean, I change with the seasons. You'll have. I have no idea. I do have a little bit of an idea of what I might do. I have a plan.
So hey, I feel like we should wrap up here because we've been talking for about an hour. But I want to end with a couple more things real quick. One more question. What is going on with your website, dude? Seriously.
So I came to the conclusion that whatever's left of my shyness is a huge block on me connecting to more of my people. So more of my community, who want to consume the ideas that come out of me the way that they come out of it, and who I know that I want to engage with and grow from and grow towards and build deeper relationships with. I'm shy. However, when you spend time with me, you realize I'm not that shy. So it's just one of my steps. I'm holding out now for my website just because what I focus on will come to pass. And I feel like what I really want is kind of big, kind of like my price bracket for when I own my own studio, like what I would want to pay the teachers that I would hire. Mm-hmm. And I only know that I want to aim that high because I know what it felt like. I know what it felt like when I knew that I was getting God. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of, if I'm going to share space with someone and ask them to work for me because I believe that they're going to help my dream along, and I believe that there's a time for me in their life to help their dream along, I want them to not have to worry about if they had lunch or breakfast. Mm-hmm. I don't want to supply their lunch or breakfast.
But what does this have to do with your website as an independent instructor right now?
As an independent instructor, it's just a matter of like, I just telling the world like what I'm ready to offer them is like, it's big. So it's just a matter of like
Okay. Well, let me just ask you to consider a point of view of something. Um, and I mean all of this, of course, from like a kind and gentle place, right?
Don't hold any punches. I didn't.
No, but so I often feel like people misunderstand the power of a simple form. And the reason for this is I have like a mental list of people who I have wanted to give money to, who they did not make it easy for me to give them money. And so therefore I did not give them money. And I knew you were going to be in Philadelphia, and I was like, oh man, and I follow you on Facebook, and so I knew that you do privates, and I like privates, and I've written posts about the value of privates, and I'm like, I would like to get a private yoga lesson with this guy Leo. I wonder if maybe we could try to work that out, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that for me, as the like potential customer, like in this transaction, right? I'm not 100% certain, like, wait, is this something he does do, that he wants to do? Does he want to do privates? Or is it only like, is that reserved just for like special people? And I've only met him like once or twice. And if I ping him on Facebook, he's not going to know that, like, he's not going to feel comfortable saying to me, like, hey, I won't give you a private. Now I see him at the festival and it's like awkward because I asked for private and he said, I don't want to give you private. You know what I mean? So then I just like, fine, whatever, I won't say anything. And if you had a form on your website that was like, you know, I love doing privates and here's why, here's the benefits of them, then what I would have been able to do is express interest to you in like sort of a transactional format, like without sort of like emotion involved, that like, hey, I want the service that you're offering. And then I could have said like, hey man, I bought your private, like super excited. I don't know if you can do it in Philadelphia, but if you can, like I would love to. And if you couldn't, you refund me, right? But like, I don't know. I feel like that is an example where by people like understanding that the service that they're offering like is a business, right? Yeah. And that on the other side of that, there's someone so I don't think instructor, in the same way that the average consumer does not realize like the benefit of a private, I really don't think that instructors realize how intimidating it is for an individual to ask for a private from an instructor. Because so often the infrastructure is not set up to make that request easy. And I just think it's a very real thing, because I think like if you want a massage, you book a massage based on like appointment time and availability. I think if you want a private yoga instructor or a private yoga lesson, you want a lesson with a specific person, because maybe they gave you an adjustment and they actually like made your body feel a certain way, or they brought out an emotion in you that you weren't expecting. And, you know, like if you're a 45-year-old married man and you want to ask for a private yoga lesson from a 28-year-old skinny woman who's got all sorts of amazing Instagram photos, maybe you're worried, like, do they do privates? Is that like, am I gonna sound weird like asking for a private? Like, I don't see on her website that she does privates. Like, is she gonna think I'm gonna asking her out for a date? Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, I don't think people understand the context that a form gives you, which is like,
I don't think 90% of the humans that I've met are on your level of thinking.
I was gonna say, but also I do have my own issues, you know. So.
No, but you gave me real reaction, because I have lost a private because they couldn't. Now I know that I've lost two. One is you. But I have lost a private because they didn't have a means of contacting me, and it's all due to. It was due to the conditioning that was easy for me to be conditioned to believe that my focus shouldn't be privates. My focus should be the studio. And And most people come out of teacher trainings with that, unless they have someone in their life like you, or they're coming from a sales background where that's not their thing. Like they're gonna beeline. For me, I don't have an answer for why that was when. I know now it's the language that I want to offer my private services in has to be clear for my consumers, because I want to work with a specific type of person, yourself included. But it's a specific type of person looking for a specific experience that I offer that I know is offered in my group classes, but I would need my whole hour to explain it.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why now my website's where it is now. But before it was just trying to find that vocabulary, trying to feel good. Would my peers or my mentors respect the fact that I offered privates, knowing or me believing that they knew where I was at in my practice? So when you have a certain level of integrity as a teacher, you don't rush out and offer anything because you're still learning. You're okay being a student, but you also have to understand, if someone asks you, I have gotten a private from a group class. They were like, the way that you touched me, can we have a private? And I respected that the private should happen because I was in my learning state where I touched them, where I met them. And that's where we had our sessions.
Yeah.
As I got more comfortable and more requests came in, I would have now I outcall. And I love that. I love that.
Okay.
For a long time, it wasn't something that I wanted to rush into, and it had nothing to do with legalities, liability, money. It had everything to do with the fact of I want to get really clear on what I'm offering to people in my body first, so that in the event that something happens in that moment, I can look at the logistics, the grid, the science of what happened, and not it being like, oh, I came in frazzled or I didn't believe in myself that day. Like, this can't beat me up. It's like, oh no, me and Jackie O don't actually vibe that well.
I think so. Okay, and I'm down with everything. I'm down with everything that you're saying. And I've tried to go a little out of my way to do more question asking than opinion giving, right? But one thing I would encourage you to think about, from the standpoint of that, is because I oftentimes will get hung up on the same kind of stuff. And when you do product development, the same kind of thing happens with features and where your product is at and that kind of stuff. And it's almost like it never is where you want it to ultimately be, right? Because as soon as you got that next feature you want, there's another feature you want to build, right?
Oh, gosh.
And so the thing that I would encourage you to think about is that in the same way that we with our product iterate on the product, right? It's very different today than it was 3 years ago, than it was 2 years ago, than it was 1 year ago, right? Which is that your next step doesn't have to be as good as you perceive your ultimate vision to be. It just needs to be better than where you're at right now. And what I would argue and encourage you to think about is that with all the realities that you outlined can be true, all at the same time that you make your message better than what it currently is right now, right? And that the danger is, and the risk is, I think, really, with that mindset, is that you're not aware of the things that you're dropping that could help you be building the thing you want to build for your ultimate vision, because you're not taking the baby. It's if you're walking up a staircase and you're I want to get to stair 14. I'm not stepping on stairs number 1 and 2. Because I want to be on stair 14.
Yep.
Right? And people are, I'm gonna lift weights so I can jump up to stair 14. And I'm gonna make my legs really strong. I'm gonna wire up a contraption with a bungee cord, and I'm gonna eject myself to stair. Well, no, just go up step 2 and 3 and 4, and then you'll be on step 14, right? So I'm gonna be really bummed out if I can't fill out a form in April for a private in Philadelphia. That's all. I'll just leave it at that, and you have a goal now.
Wait, can we talk to something really cool? Because I think some people might miss this really fun fact about this particular video.
Sure.
Podcasters, you'll totally miss it. The entire time that you said anything, there's a light bulb over your head. So if no one listens to me, they should definitely listen to you. You're the light bulb over your bald little beautiful head. Awesome smile and brilliant mind the whole time.
All right, well, we should do this again. Will you do this again with me sometime? This was a fun conversation, I feel like.
I will. Fun fact, I had no idea that it was going to be beneficial in this way, not only for myself, but for, I know people that feel like they're tight around the lips about like how the instructors and teachers that feel tight around the lips about what's going on. I think that I would listen to this. Like, this is awesome.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're slowly, Tula Software's gonna just slowly infiltrate the whole, it's just gonna be like a little warm blanket.
I'm all Tula. I'm really tired of the other group. The other group.
No.
I can't deal.
It's yeah, I mean, you know, and then you have the reality of everything's hard for everybody, right? Every industry has their issues, you know. So, all right, Leo, I'm gonna stop this. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It was awesome to talk to you. Bye.
Buddy.